Okay, welcome to a video. Today I'm going to answer the important question I've seen on many Discord channels, and I've been asked it multiple times myself. Can your system run VR? And also, if you're thinking of building a system for VR, what you need to get it working. So I'll run through the processor, graphics card, RAM, that sort of stuff, what you need. Essentially, if your current PC struggles to run anything at, say, 1080p, and you have to turn down the settings, to be honest, VR is not going to work on your system without an upgrade. Alternatively, if you can run any game in 4K, 1440p on triple screens, there is a chance that your system will be good enough to run the VR at a respectable level. So let's get on with it. Little bit of a disclaimer. I am not a technical guy. So people like Gamers Nexus and people, Jay's 2 cents, they're the people for technical stuff. I'm just going to run through, from my experience, I've had 3 different versions of PCs. There are some parts lying around. I've also got a graphics card set over there and my processor currently, which I'll show you later. So yeah, bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a technical guy. I'm just going to do my best to offer the advice that I've learned that will hopefully help you guys get your VR systems up and running. Also, any questions, throw it down in the comments. I will help you. I'll the best of my knowledge, or I'll point you in the direction of somewhere that you need to look. And yeah, so any questions, just let me know. Also, as regards, I'm not going to run through VR headsets. You'll see mine there. That is an Oculus CV1. That's what I run. That is the only headset I've ever run. So I'm not really in any position to compare the Quest with the Pimax, with a Pico, with the other ones. So that's the only one I've ever used. So I'm not going to run through headsets required. That one, you could say, is an entry level. So it's not the latest and greatest, but I get a good experience with my current system with that headset. Okay, moving along, we're now going to look at CPU, or the processor, first. So we'll get straight into it. Things to avoid, or things that if you've got one, you may struggle. So if you have a Intel i3 processor or a Ryzen 3 labeled processor, you may not have enough power to run the VR. VR takes a lot of processing power. So if you have the lower end of it, then you are going to struggle. You will bottleneck probably on your GPU, and you just won't get a good experience. So if you have one, you will need an upgrade if you want to run VR, or if you're building one, don't buy one of those. I'll go through to the next ones, are the ones you really need to be looking at. More power the better, as always. So entry level wise, ones that'll work, they're not the latest and greatest, but you'll get a decent experience, and this is the current level of processor that I have. I've called it sort of an entry level processor. So they would be the i5 Intel and the Ryzen 5 processors. So the Ryzen 5 from the last generation, the AM4 socket, that's what I currently run. So if you're buying the Ryzen 5 with the newer AM5 socket, then the power in those will be enough to get a reasonable VR experience. I'll quickly show you what I have. Oh, knocked my camera. That's it. Let me just stop that from rocking. There we go. Right. So this is what I have. I currently run the AMD Ryzen, the 5600X. That's the one and that's on the AM5 socket. Bit rattly. That's what I currently use. it is very good. Very good. I can run my VR. I can have OBS open. I can live stream with it. It works very well. Works very well. I am, in most cases, CPU limited with what I can do with my system. So in an ideal world, I would have better than that one. But that one gets me to a level. I can get a very good experience out of it, as you'll see from my videos that I've posted on the channel. So check them out as well after this. So that is what I currently have. So if you're looking something Intel wise, you'll be looking at the bear with me. You'll be looking at something like the i5 11600K or F, K and F. They're around £200. The one I've just showed up is currently available for £155 in Amazon prices. You can also get the Ryzen 5, the 7600. That's a slight upgrade on that one, but that's like £220, £230. So it depends on your budget. Bang for buck, that's, I think, a better overall deal. So hence why I went for that at the time. I've had this system since the summer, so about a year, nearly a year. Built myself. You'll see some pictures of it appear here and there. So that is the one I go for. So a Ryzen 5, you'll be absolutely fine. Same with the Intel, but I'll go into a bit more depth in those in a second. Yes, so that's that. Again, anything to Gen 5, the latest AM5 Gen, again, you'll be absolutely fine. Prices are slightly increased. The graphics cards, the motherboards are slightly higher priced. So it depends on your budget. If you want to build something now that's going to last you 6 or 7 years, then maybe the AM5 might be for you. But that's not what all this video is about. Look for other people about which systems to buy. I'm just telling you what it is that you'll need to run VR. So as regards to Intel, so the i5 11th gen onwards would be ideal. So you got the 11th gen, which is on a previous socket, and then currently the 12 gen and the 13 gen are currently on the same motherboard set. So prices for those, so the 11600K is at £200, which is £50 more than my current one. And if you're looking for a 12 generation 600, that's £270. So again, that's the next sort of level up. And obviously 13th gen is again more expensive on top of that. So that as regards to like an entry level. So i5 for Intel and Ryzen 5 for AMD. Again, team red, team blue. I like the AMD. No previous experience of AMD, but I get on right with it and I really like it. For the higher level stuff, you're looking at Intel i7 or Intel i9 if you can afford it. Bit overkill for most things, but the extra power in VR would help you massively. So either of those. So again, you can go for the 12700KF or the 11700. Prices on those currently in the UK are around £330, £340 for the 12700. The 11700 is at £290, just shy of 300. And then Ryzen side of things, you'll be looking around £320 for the Ryzen 7 7700X. Or the upgrade that I've got planned for mine on the AM4 socket. I'm looking at the Ryzen 7, the 5800X 3D. So I can just slot that straight into my PC. No upgrade, no further upgrades needed. I can just put that in. Done. And that's currently in stock for £209. So If you're building one now, I probably wouldn't buy one I've bought, because for what, 50 quid more, you can get the 3DX, and the extra cache memory on that. You'll see a noticeable increase, and I've seen on many Discord channels. Graphics cards, we've got two real options for VR. We have the Team Nvidia, Team Green, or Team Red with the AMD. I personally, I have 3080. The box for it is in the background here. That's my 3080. It is my Ventus 3 MSI thing. 10 gigabyte. Love it. It's fantastic. That's what I currently use, along with the 5600X that I showed you earlier. Works a treat. Absolutely love it. Graphics cards that won't really work. So Nvidia wise, in an ideal world, anything ending with a 60, so for example a 1660, a 1060, a 2060, I'll go more detail in a second, and a 3060, you kind of gonna, that's when you'll start struggling. Now here, there we go. That was my previous graphics card, which I still have. This is a MSI 2060 Super. I did manage to run VR with that, but obviously that was I was having to turn a lot down. I was getting an experience, but it struggled on quite a few things. It worked okay on iRacing. To be fair, iRacing will run on the lower end, so you could probably get away with a 3060 depending on your headset. It would have to need to be probably with Oculus Quest 2 might be about your limit, really. But it really struggled with R factor. So if it's R factor you're looking to run, you also need massive processing power for R factor, because it just eats CPU. Mine occasionally struggles with it. I have to turn cars down and that sort of stuff, so you need something quite high end to run R factor 2. And then with the graphics card paired with that, it wasn't a good experience. I tried for hours and hours and hours. If you're looking to run ACC Competizione, it's just a no-go. With the 2060 Super and the 5600X, wouldn't even, no, it's just not even worth trying. You could barely run on your own on a track, let alone race anybody. So I would avoid SKUs ending with a 60 with Nvidia, just because they just don't quite give you enough. So entry level wise, if you already have something, say like a 2070 or a 2080 Ti or Super, you should be able to get a good enough experience. There are people that I am aware of through communities that run a 1080 Ti, and they get a good experience out of that. So you want the higher end of the graphics card range. If you're at the lower end, you're really going to struggle. Like for example, this box over here, that is my kids' graphics card. They have the Ventus, an MSI again. I like my MSIs. They have a 3050 in theirs. No way in hell that'll run VR. Wouldn't even entertain it. It's very good at running 1080p on the single screen. That's your limit. It ain't going to run anything else. It won't run Oculus. It won't run. It's just not worth it. You will need an upgrade if that's what you currently have. So onwards from the options. So you got the 2070, 2080. I wouldn't buy one used. If you already have one, then use it. But there are better graphics cards out there that I would buy now. You're really looking. Your sweet spot really is going to be around the 3070 Ti, 3080, which is what I have. They're currently available for 3070 Ti is about 500 quid. and the 3080 is just over 700, so 720. It's a bit cheaper than when I bought mine, but you know, is what it is. Obviously, if you're looking at the latest versions of graphics cards, the 40 series, 4080 would be absolutely ideal. It's a bit on the expensive side currently in the UK for £1,300, which is a lot of money. Probably a better deal if you're going for the 40 series would be the, if you can get one, a 4070 Ti, and they're around £900. And that, again, it's a top quality graphics card. No problem at all. Obviously 4090, if you're going to remortgage your house and buy the world's biggest case, then that will be fine as well. So that's it for Nvidia side of things. Now we'll move on to the AMD side of things. Now again, a little bit of a disclaimer on the AMDs. I have never used an AMD graphics card. So I wanted to add it into this video without any experience. So I've spoken to Barchelin out of, hope I'm saying that right, out of the rFactor2 forum Discord channel. He's an AMD man, and I asked his little advice. So as regards to that, you've not really got much choice when it comes to AMD graphics cards. For a decent experience at a decent high-res resolution, your only real option is the 6800 XT and above, if you can find one. Mate, you might get a reasonable experience on a 6800 non-XT, but you'll probably run into issues. You'll probably have to turn some things down. So to be honest, it's not really worth getting. Just look for the if you really want an AMD card, the 6800 XT is the card that you want. Price wise, you're currently looking at £570 in the UK, so it is a lot cheaper than the Nvidia options, but it puts it straight at the 3070 Ti. Me personally, I would probably go for that if I had a choice between the two, but then I'm not an AMD man, so you know, just throwing it out there. So yeah, so as regards to AMDs, you've not really got much choice. It's the 6800 XT currently, and that's about your lot really. So if you've got anything else like a 4GB card or a 6GB card, you're going to struggle to run. You're going to struggle to run VR. I even think it'd struggle to run like mine, which is not a super high resolution headset. It's enough for me, but things like the Pimax and the G2 and the Aero, they're like double to triple the resolution that mine puts out. So you can imagine they're not going to run them. They're not going to run them at all. Okay, moving on now to the final bit that I'm going to talk about, which will be RAM requirements. Now, I should have thought about this. Ignore me. So obviously you've got the DD4 and you've got DD5. So depending on which platform that you've chosen, will be depending on what you choose. Basic rule is with RAM, ideally run it in 2 slots. Ideally, comes out later. And if you're running over 3600 megahertz, that's kind of like the sweet spot and above. And then the next question is, how much do you need? Is it 16GB, 32GB, or higher? Now what I have 32GB of Corsair DDR4, but mine only runs at 3200 megahertz. See, I discovered my own advice after I'd purchased. So that's another upgrade on the cards. So I didn't even follow my own advice. And I also run it in 4 slots. So, listen to my own advice. Like I say, in an ideal world, I'd say you'd want 32GB at 3600 megahertz and above. There are many places else to search online to get which ones are the best ones to get. you might be able to get away with 16 gigabytes if you don't stream or you don't have multiple programs open while you are gaming. But I found even without streaming on iRacing, for example, I was really getting to the upper level of where my RAM usage, and then I'd turn it down to use slightly less RAM in the game, and then I noticed I was having to turn other things down. So I was like borderline. It wasn't using all of it, but it was using enough of it to start causing slight issues here and there. So that's why I'm recommending 32 gigabytes. If you have 16, try it. You're not going to lose anything without, you know, if you've already got it, try and run it. Then if you have to upgrade, you can. Just save a bit of money that way. But me personally, I started to run into a few issues at around 16 gigabytes. So that was mainly that. That's mainly for DDR4. For DDR5, obviously they're on the newer platform, so the AM5 platform, and also you can run it on the 12th and 13th gen Intel, depending on which motherboard that you've gone for. Now they are generally more expensive, however the megahertz that they run at are a lot faster. So if you're in DDR5, all I would probably say, make sure you've got yourself 32 gigabyte, and it'll be running probably over 3600 megahertz anyway. So I don't think that really is an issue when it comes to DDR5. For example, I had a quick look online before doing this video. I found some Fury Kingston Beast RGB, 32 gigabytes at 6,000 megahertz, and I found that for 140 quid. So the price is coming down. It's getting to the point where it's around the same price as DDR4. It's got that crossover at the moment. So yeah, that's really it for RAM. And then we'll move on to the conclusion. And then we're about done. Okay, so conclusion. I hope the information that I've provided is useful. Obviously, if there's any questions, anything that I've missed, anything I've got wrong, look, put it in the comments. Like I say, I'm not a technical guy, so hopefully I've got most of it, if all of it, correctly. But yeah, I mean the SKUs that I mentioned, all the parts that I mentioned, they're definitely what you should be looking at if you want to get VR working. If I was going to build a system today without spending a minor fortune, what would I buy? Me personally, I'd probably go for an Intel i7-13700. That's 370 quid. I'd probably get a 4070 Ti at between 800 and 900 quid. Whether I go DDR4, DDR5, the prices are pretty similar at the moment, so I think that would depend on what motherboard prices I could find. But if I'm just like throwing it out there, get DDR5, why not? I would. Saves an upgrade in a couple of years. And those things that I've mentioned there alone are like £1,400, and that's with no case, no motherboard, no cooler, no power supply, no storage. So you can see where this starts getting expensive. So that's probably what I'd go for. The thing with VR PCs, if you try VR, or if you're already in up, as you'll already know, if for whatever reason you don't like VR, your system will be a beast. So you'll be able to run any racing game in triple screen at probably 1440p if you've got the monitors to do so. So all is not lost. So I probably at some point, I mean I've got a lot on the cards, at some point I'll probably have triple screen as well as my headset. But I do like my headset. I'm a fan. I do like VR, as you can tell. So yeah, all is not lost. So I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you all for watching. Anything you want to know below, chuck it in the comments, like, subscribe, all the usual sort of stuff. Yeah, thank you for watching. See you, bye.